She put the records back in their place and straightened her dress and wiped her face. She closed and locked the door and left them lying on the floor, and she sang, some kind of love, some kind of love. Some kind of love, some kind of love. Some kind of love, some kind of love.
Good. All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you, friends, for being here. We're really glad you're here to talk with us about fisheries. I wanted to start the session by saying thank you to the Sami for sharing your lands and waters with us. They're absolutely stunning, and we're really appreciative. Also, thank you to the amazing presenters you're going to see from traveling so far. They've come from the Amazon and Lake Tanganyika, which is very far from Sweden, so I appreciate them. I have heard fisheries mentioned a few times here and there in this World Water Week. I am not a time traveler, so I can't attend multiple sessions, but I haven't seen them mentioned as much as I would like. So this session is intentionally going to focus in on fisheries and how they connect to WASH and energy and agriculture, many of the topics that we've been hearing from this week. We explore how the complexity in managing them with different parties, so we'll be hearing from Indigenous peoples, local communities, civil society, and government. And I want to mention why I'm using both the word Indigenous and local communities. And I want to recognize that Indigenous peoples have special recognition for their rights, and we respect that. Also, many of the places that we work, particularly in Africa, have local communities that don't recognize themselves as Indigenous, but do have a very deep connection to their lands, waters, and resources, which is why we use both terms. I also want to say that we're hoping to have more Indigenous participation here in person and acknowledge that it's hard to get a Schengen visa, and so we had several failures in getting visas approved to visit. All right, so on to fish. Oh, I should also mention I'm Caitlin Dowdy. I work for the Nature Conservancy on the freshwater fisheries team, and I focus on gender equity and rights. Why are we talking about fish? Over 60 million people rely on freshwater fish for their livelihood. More than 50% are women. And every human on the planet relies on freshwater ecosystems, both directly for their drinking water and indirectly for their livelihoods. In 2015, wild-caught fisheries provided full dietary protein for 158 million people. And freshwater fish provides high-quality nutrition for many people and places where there are otherwise poor diets. In 2018, FAO estimated the economic value of freshwater fishery catches to be approximately $26 billion US. We can imagine that that has increased in the last 6 years. And so from these numbers, I think it's very clear that freshwater fisheries are essential for people economies. However, many inland fisheries and the people that rely on them are at risk. Risks include external threats such as hydropower dams or contamination from mining, as well as direct threats from overfishing. International, national, and local policies and practices influence both direct and indirect threats to fisheries and the water on which they depend. Strong, inclusive management of fish and fisheries will elevate the needs of people and biodiversity alongside energy, flood control, irrigation, et cetera. A holistic vision of transboundary water management that includes fisheries will increase collaboration among overlapping yet distinct ministries, as we've heard in multiple sessions this week. Ministries aren't always talking together, and I think fish is what can combine them. It also is really important to elevate the voices of Indigenous peoples and local communities in these spaces. And collectively, these groups can address the needs of all communities and all people rather than just a select few. As I mentioned belatedly earlier, I work for the Nature Conservancy on the freshwater fisheries team, and we work through our inland fisheries guide. We try to develop co-management systems between communities and their governments, and the fisheries guide tells us how to do that. It starts with engaging all the Indigenous peoples, local communities, and other stakeholders, understanding their needs, how they're using the freshwater system, what's important to them, and then planning, implementing, and finally, even after implementing, you're not done. You need to learn what's gone well, what hasn't gone well, and adapt from that. For me, as I mentioned before, we also really do focus on the rights of communities and making sure that we uphold the rights of communities to fish and their freshwater resources. And also we look into gender equity and trying to make sure there's increasing gender equity in the communities that we're working with. Other part of the guide that I want to mention is it starts off with these 10 principles. I'm not going to go through every single one, but there are 4 that I want to call out that I thought were particularly relevant for this conference with its themes of transboundary waters. First is the fundamental aspects of collaboration and respecting local norms, giving a voice to all actors and letting all actors, despite it might be, we're going to hear from one place that has 4 countries today, that's a lot of actors, it's still important to hear from all of them. Letting the fishery define itself, particularly paying attention to the knowledge of the local actors in the fisheries, including women and youth. Form follows function, which speaks to understanding the legal pluralism and trying to strengthen traditional and customary practices in addition to understanding existing formal structures that the government may have in place. And then creating accountability and understanding existing power relations between actors, ensuring that there are conflict mechanisms that can empower communities in the cases when conflict arises. If you want to explore the guide, as you leave, there are cards on the table that have a QR code to our guide online. Now, to the objectives for our session. We want to better understand how transboundary cooperation in fisheries can address multiple benefits for people and nature, learn from these incredible case studies from Lake Tanganyika and the Amazon, and then also connect fisheries to integrated water resource management that many people in this conference focus on. I'm excited to introduce to you our session speakers. We'll start off with Beatrice Nyakorema Marua, Director of Fisheries and Aquaculture at the Lake Tanganyika Authority. Unfortunately, Gabriel Butuyi is unable to join us either here or online, but I wanted to keep his picture up because we had all good intentions to have him here in person and to speak with you, which is why we have French translation. Then we'll move to the Amazon, and we'll learn from Gabriela Celi, Ecuadorian Amazon Strategy Coordinator at the Nature Conservancy. Then Diana Chavez Vargas, the leader of international affairs and organizations at Paquiru, Quechua Indigenous Nation of Pastaza in Ecuador. And then online we have Sani Broom, Ictio specialist at Wildlife Conservation Society, who will talk about an alliance, Aguas Amazonicas, that works across Amazon countries. With that, I'm going to give it off to our first speaker, Beatrice. It's off to you now. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to take you through sharing our experience, how do we involve local communities in managing the fisheries resources. But before going into that key point, I would like to take you through you understanding the Lake Tanganyika. Lake Tanganyika is the second deepest lake in the world, with a depth of 1,670 meters. And it is shared directly by the 4 countries. As you see, we have to the north, we have Burundi with 8% sharing the water surface. And we have also Tanzania with 41% of water surface. And DR Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, 45, and then down you have Zambia with the 6% of the water resources. And after the long studies since early 1990s, it was found that the challenges which are facing the lake is interrelated and interconnected in the 4 countries. And so there is also transboundary fish species. We have also the issue of oil exploration and so forth. So the countries decided to come together and have the management plan of that shared resources. So as you see, the lake basin, it has a very big basin, and the big portion is under Tanzania, 67%. The remaining percent is shared between Congo, Zambia, and Tanzania. I mean, Zambia and Burundi. And as you can see, the drainage portion is big, like 223 kilometers square. As I said, the 4 countries established the convention and they signed in 2003, and the convention was ratified. It was signed 2003 and it was ratified in 2007. And then it allowed the establishment of the legal institution, the Secretariat, Lake Tanganyika Authority, to coordinate the 4 countries to implement the convention. And the objective is to ensure the protection and the conservation of the biological diversity and the sustainable use of the natural resources within the lake and lake basin, and by the contracting states on the basis of integrated and cooperative management. So after the convention, then they established the strategic action plan. And in the lake, let's now touch the fisheries. There are like 1,000 species of fish in the Lake Tanganyika, and there are about 6 fish species which are the pelagic. They don't have boundary. You can find them today, they are in Congo, tomorrow, or after 1 month, they're in Tanzania. And these pelagic fish species, there are 6. They are they have the commercial importance. And the fisheries, it contributes a lot under these 6 species. The 6 species, we have 3 species. The 2 sardines and the 1 elates contributes about 98% of the fish landing. And yes, these are the species which are very important. They are also crossing the border. So if there's any negative impact done by one country, obviously it has to affect another country. So this is the essence of bringing now the cooperative management of the lake. Now, our experience in engaging the fisheries involvement. First of all, in the convention, they recognize the cooperation and the involvement of the community to manage resource. Why? When you see the length of the lake or the shoreline is 1,900 kilometers. But when you check the civil servants employed by the government, they are less than 200. So the government alone cannot manage that resource. So that's why the 4 countries see there is a need to involve the community. And they are the ones who are resource frontiers. They are closer to the resource. They use it every day. And under Article 7, there is also promotion of participation of the fisheries management, including the fisheries groups. And it was found that during the research that there was informal groupings of the fisheries along the Lake Tanganyika, that they were already there. So they used that opportunity to recognize them and then take on board, and then later on we went to improve those groupings so that they can be recognized at a league under a regulatories governing the countries and the lake. So in 2016, the countries signed the guideline to establish the co-management. Of course, the co-management, that is a common name. Thank you. That is a common name, and but in the other countries they are using different name. But that was a common name that we agreed, and that guideline now helped the countries now to start establishing the co-management of fishery, but in a different levels. Some countries are ahead, some countries are lag behind. Now, after having that guidelines, then our partners, we involved them, TNC came in, and we also established the guideline in collaboration with the TNC, the World Bank, African Development Bank, and other partners. So at least now we have the guideline how to can establish the co-management. And the principle behind is to promote sense of ownership, but also to help them to manage the fisheries resources. And also, currently we are also involving them in data collection. They are collecting data. We build their capacity on how to use the phones and to collect the data at least at their knowledge, at their level of knowledge. So the pictures behind you see, these are the data we collected, and now we shared with the local communities to understand the status of their resources, the fishing capacity in the lake, and what should we do. And even when we are developing the charter, after the scientific research, we shared with the local communities. Of course, they were also involved while we are collecting the data. And then we saw, they agreed that yes, really there is over-exploitation of the resources, and we need the urgent action measures on it. And then we developed the charter involving the communities, and then we also went down to sensitize, and we are using those communities' key points to sensitize their fellow community levels. And then within the charter also there is a provision of closing the lake. And we started last year, one country managed to close the lake for three months. And then, those community, local communities, they do interact with even from other countries. So they have an informal collaboration, networking. So they ask, what were the results? What was going on? So in this year, another country, Tanzania, also joined, closed for 3 months. So 2 countries. Now we hope that as we are going, because seeing is believing, the other 4 countries will join. But we needed to involve them. If we don't involve them, then they will not participate. It's like you're coming to impose something which they don't know. After all, when you start imposing them, they are looking negative impression of it, not the positive way. So the opportunities engaging the communities, yes, there is opportunities, acceptance of the resource users themselves, that yes, we need to have some changes so for us to manage our resources, recognition of the involvement of the communities by the existing structures at the national level and the national level, willingness of the partners to help the region in collaborating or engaging the resource users. For example, European Union, FAO, GF, and the like, existence of harmonizing the charter, and also recognition of the voluntary guideline of the securing sustainable small fisheries in the context of the food security, poverty reduction, and also the region, other regional frameworks by the member states. Challenges, yes. There's slowness in the ratification of the harmonized legal frameworks. Signing is another issue, but involve them in the national framework is another issue, and the implementation is also another issue. And harmonized legal framework among member states because when you talk about harmonization, it takes resources, takes time. for the people to, you have to involve from the national level to the grassroots level. And you need to have an equal common understanding from all levels. Otherwise, you'll be stuck. Then limited scientific findings and also insufficient awareness to local communities. The awareness is a it is a continuous activity. It's not a one-day activity. As you see, even we have the SSF guideline in FOIO, we have a lot of guidelines international, but you see adopting them, it takes time. And so sensitization, it needs time and also resources, and where we're inviting all of our collaborators and the development partners, technical partners to support us. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Beatrice. I think you show how complicated it is when there is multiple legal frameworks, not only within one country, but in multiple countries, and a lot of communities living on the shore. Because we couldn't get Gabriel here, from a fisherman from Burundi, we're going to give you a little bit of a video instead to give you a sense of the lake, and it does include some community voices. So without further ado, the video, please. Thank you so much.
Lake Tanganyika is older and deeper than any lake in Africa. It's the world's longest lake and shares a boundary with 4 countries: Tanzania, Zambia, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and Burundi.
Lake Tanganyika is a special ecosystem. It holds 17% of world's freshwater. It also supports 50% of 12 million people living around it in the 4 neighboring countries. Additionally, Lake Tanganyika is a global beacon of biodiversity. It has more than 250 species of nearshore cichlids found nowhere else in the world.
Kipindi cha miaka ya nyuma hiyo, samaki walikuwa wanaonekana, wanaweza kupita kama hapo ulipo, kama wingu. Lakini kwa sasa, kwanza kumuona mjimbuka anapita hivi, ni ndoto.
Growing populations and unsustainable fishing practices are driving the lake's seemingly inexhaustible resources into the danger zone. The lake is facing threats from climate change, unhealthy practices, and sediment from land degradation.
Chochote utakachokitia majini leo ambacho ni kichafu itahitaji miaka 400 au zaidi ya 400 toka. Tunayo mifano halisi barani Afrika, baadhi ya maziwa ambayo yamekwisha poteza uasili wake kutokana na kwamba hayakutunzwa.
Kama hatutoilinda au kuikomalia, ni kuogelea tu ndio haya. Tukija huko maisha yanaendelea, kama tutoka tunakula mawe, kama tutahamia wote huko.
Building from a decade of experience working with fishing communities on the Tanzanian lakeshore through the Tuungane project, the Nature Conservancy is supporting the rapid scaling of fisheries best management practices and freshwater biodiversity conservation across the entire 4-nation lake basin. Working in partnership, we're combining groundbreaking science, local knowledge, and proven methods to deliver on a unified vision of a well-managed lake that can provide for people and nature for generations.
As we scale across the lake, the lessons that we learned from the Tuungane project implemented in Tanzania, this is a big ask. This is challenging. We can't do it alone. No institution can do it alone because it has never been done before. That's why we look forward to establishing and strengthening partnerships to make sure that we bring together traditional and indigenous knowledge and science to inform policy making and promote transboundary freshwater and biodiversity management and protection.
If we look at the vastness of this lake, there's no single institution that will manage this lake effectively. So you need to team up with many other partners that have interest in conserving the resources of this lake. When you do that, all you are basically doing is bringing to one table the resources that are available that could be plowed into the activities that have been planned around the lake to increase the chances of anticipated benefits.
The program's founding NGO partners are Frankfurt Zoological Society, WWF DR Congo, and Sustain Lake Tanganyika, and additional partners are being added. Collaboration between NGOs, government, research institutions, and most importantly, local communities can help ensure Lake Tanganyika can chart a course toward health and prosperity for nature and people.
The natural
Sorry to cut you off midway there. I know it was incredible to see those images, but we have a limited time with you all today, so I want to be sure that we give enough time for the other presenters. Now I think you have a sense of both the complications of managing Lake Tanganyika that Beatrice has, but also how beautiful it is and that you should visit. I can +1 that. Now over to Gabby. Let's go to the Amazon.
So thank you, Caitlin, for inviting us to do a presentation about the Amazon basin. So let's change the geography, and we have to go to the Amazon basin. So our TNC conservation approach in the Amazon focus on transboundary collaboration to keep a healthy basin network of free-flowing rivers and maintain their connection to floodplains and wetlands. We collaborate across Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Brazil, in the Caqueta, Napo, Marañón, Ucayali, Tapajós, Araguaia, y Xingu priority subbasins through policy and system change interventions. As you can see, part of our vision enhance the effective partnership with indigenous peoples and local communities to ensure the preservation of their livelihoods and cultures, and the region's vital role in global climate regulation. We have ambitious conservation goals protecting more than 150,000 kilometers of rivers in the Amazon basin and 6 million hectares of wetlands and lakes, supporting more than 1 million people that benefits from healthy freshwater ecosystems. So, in our work in the Amazon, we work with 5 interrelated focus areas in alignment with indigenous peoples and local communities, national priorities, and with a transboundary vision. Within this work, inland fisheries is a key pillar. We aim to conserve inland fisheries and associated systems. Fishing is an important activity for indigenous people in the Amazon basin because it is the principal source of protein for communities living in these fluvial systems and flooded forests. So river connectivity is crucial as migratory fish species account more than 90% of the fisheries landing in this basin. Our focus is on the protection and management of community-based fisheries. We explore opportunities to improve fisheries management practices at scale through policy and science, such as driving legislation on fisheries management and sustainable fishing requirements, improving basin scale, fish landing information, identifying key areas for migratory fish conservation, and fostering transboundary collaboration. To safeguard these healthy fisheries, we target critical areas like spawning, rearing, and feeding sites, and migratory fish corridors. Additionally, we are analyzing policy, capacity building, and science interventions to address the growing threats of mercury contamination to freshwater fisheries and the people who depend on them throughout the Amazon. So why is important the fisheries on the Amazon basin? The Amazon is home for a vast number of indigenous territories, which play a crucial role in preserving both the environment and cultural heritage. Over 3,000 indigenous territories have been identified within the Amazon biome, covering about 35% of the region. These territories are spread across several countries, including Bolivia, Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, French Guiana, Peru, Suriname, and Venezuela. Indigenous communities in these areas are vital for conservation efforts. They protect some of the most intact parts of the Amazon, acting as defenders against threats and pressures. The Amazon basin is home to an incredible diverse array of fish species, with over 3,000 identified. Migratory fish are often among the most important components of fisheries, being an essential component in the diet of riverside and indigenous people, reaching about 70% of protein in their diet. Fisheries provide livelihoods for thousands of people in the region. The fishing industry supports not only fishers, but also those involved in processing, transportation, and selling fish. Fisheries play an important ecological role in this Amazon ecosystem. They help maintain the balance of aquatic environments and contribute the nutrient cycling. Migratory fish species, in particular, are essential for the health of the river systems. And we have to highlight the cultural values associated to fisheries. Fishing is deeply embedded in the cultural practices and traditions of many indigenous and local communities in the Amazon. It is not just a means of sustenance, but also a part of their heritage and way of life. However, the sustainability of those fisheries is under threat due to overfishing, illegal wildlife trafficking, aquaculture with invasive species, habitat destruction caused by infrastructure projects and extractive activities such as hydropowers, dams, oil and mining pollution, and changes in hydrological patterns causing floods and droughts. Effective management and conservation strategies are crucial to ensure that these fisheries can continue to provide for the people and ecosystems of the Amazon basin. So, in order to plan and implement conservation strategies in the Ecuadorian Amazon region, TNC has developed the inland fisheries diagnosis to collect data about fisheries management and define some strategies to overcome the threats and pressures in a participatory way. TNC and the National Institute of Biodiversity are playing a crucial role to define this information and collect some data, important data. So this information is valuable to define conservation strategies with the communities and at the local and national level. Communities are implementing fisheries in a sustainable way. They define agreements and community regulations based on their collective action. So they decide what to fish, where and when, according to their traditional knowledge and according to the abundance or scarcity of the resource. Communities, government at the national and local level, and non-governmental organizations are creating a multi-stakeholder platform for establish a work plan, improve regulations, consolidate fisheries governance, and strengthen capacities in local stakeholders. So we have to face some challenges regarding inland fisheries. We have, for example, lack of information and regulation. There are different inland fisheries policies between countries and different governance model, looking for a transboundary effort. And communities have been excluded in the planning and the regulation process. However, there are some opportunities. For example, NGOs, academia, and the government are joining efforts to create platforms at the national and international level to overcome all the problems regarding inland fisheries in this important basin. As I mentioned before, fisheries develop cultural and social importance with traditional knowledge and practices being passed down through generations. Communities develop sustainable fishing practices to ensure long-term viability of fish stocks and freshwater ecosystems. And I would like to invite Diana Diana Chavez, who is a representative of an indigenous nation in Ecuador, from Paquiru. She will share with us her vision and the challenges, opportunities that she think there are in the Amazon, in the Ecuadorian Amazon region.
Le hago clic. Hello, everyone. Just to know the people that is here, my audience, how many of you know how to swim? Can you raise your hand? Nice. So you having, how many of you have swum in a river? Good, okay. If you haven't been in a river, try, put it in your bucket list. Maybe we can go to lake where Beatriz is. Yeah, I haven't been in Africa. That's on my bucket list, to visit at least one country. Hello, everyone. My name is Diana Chavez. I'm from Ecuador. Right now, I'm going to use one of my heads. I represent, I'm part of my council, the Pastaza Quichua Nation from the Ecuadorian Amazon, but also I'm an indigenous planner, and I have had the honor to be part of and work with other nations that are part there in my province. My province, Pastaza, has 7 nations, indigenous nations, and what I have been helping is to write down some documents, and I'm going to try to share with you what is going on over there. I don't know if that's the first one. Okay. Yeah, I'm sharing right now this, when we were talking about one of the challenges, is how the seasons are changing. And now we're having these long seasons of a lot of raining, and also some droughts. This is a flood that we had just 2 months ago. And if you can see the weather, it's very close to the house, and we just used the boat and crossed a house that was built there. we have some issues in the communities. One of the things that we are having problems is the communities like to grow, and I don't know if that's the next, they like to grow yucca or, how you said, cassave in other parts close to the shore of the river. So we are having these conversations. What Gabby mentioned is some of the challenges is because we have this mindset that maybe we have these big rivers and we have been thinking in abundance. We're changing now that. And this has been happening as a self-regulation in the communities because, of course, the state doesn't have the human resources to come to the Amazonian and talk with us. So what I have been doing is visiting some communities and seeing in every workshop how they recognize that something is happening with the rivers. They have recognized that they are not catching the fish as they used to. And they are now also having the same species of fish. There is a reduction on the quantity of the fishes that they are catching. So I have been part of those conversations. And I'm sharing with you because self-regulation helps a lot if an organization or the government wants to come and start talking because the conversations are already happening inside the communities. So the abundance in the Amazon region, as we used to talk, is there any way to, yeah, I was going to share a dish. Okay, yeah, this we call carachama. I don't know the scientific name. I think it starts with a P. Okay. I'm sharing with you this because I'm going to try to do something different also to see. I have a dynamic when I work with the people, and I used to play, there is a boat coming with a cargo, and the cargo is full of name of fishes. And I wanted to try that with you, but I see that you are very separate. And it's amazing how the people can say, like, if I have 20 people, we can do like 3 rounds, and they know the names of a lot of fishes in their own language. So the diversity is still there, the knowledge is there, and then that's how we start the conversation, because they start talking, okay, we haven't catch this fish in so many times, people maybe don't know the name, and they start sharing or describing the fish, and that knowledge also is getting lost, because we were talking with the elders, and they said, we are teaching the kids the name, but they haven't never see that fish. So we need pictures, how we show them how are these fish that we used to. Okay, sorry, it's too big. I was showing what we're eating. And as Gabriela mentioned, almost half of the protein comes from fish. The other half comes from wild animals, and some from chicken. Let me see if that picture, okay, and also to move, to travel, and come to the city, or we as the council, we have to visit the communities. This comes from a huge assembly that we have, and it was nice, I'm sharing with you, because all of this canoe was full of women, and we were talking a lot. Look, and that's the way that we travel, right? Locally, we haven't had so many accidents. And I was going to share this with you. Right now, what is where my nation is promoting and having the conversation that in the past, the government brought tilapias. And thank you. And what's the name for tilapias in English? Tilapia? Okay, nice. Okay. But we start complaining because some of the tilapias went to the river, and they are like cockroaches, and they are eating the native species. So we're promoting, that's my grandma. She just started this pool to start growing local and native species. So we need more knowledge about how to make them, because we need to be careful of the water, the food that they were given to them. We're learning about this. So just to share with you, it is good when the same communities, as Beatriz mentioned, realize what is going on with the water, and they start having these self-regulations. In many of the communities, they decide not to, I never opened this, okay. They decide not to use dynamite. It was already reduced, but that's the way that some people used to do it. They decide not to fish too many times on the river. They are going to wait to the river to recover. And also they decide that they are going to start having these pools, some of the communities, not all of them, to start trying to grow native fish, because tilapia is hurting right now some of the rivers, but also it has been imposed, and it's part of the like we sell it to tourism, a dish, and that's bad because we used to eat another thing, and now like it's the mainstream, looks like it's the mainstream that all the indigenous people eats that, but that's not true. Oh, nice. Okay, oh yeah, and this is the yucca. They are huge yuccas, I haven't seen that long, and those comes, people and women can fight for this just to do the chakras close to the river because of the sediments, the nutrients that are there. I haven't seen territorial conflicts just because of this between nations, because they like the small islands that are in the river, the Pastaza River, and who goes first has the right to plant. But we have seen some fights about that between communities or indigenous nations. So just to finish, I just want to point out, I was talking about the self-regulation, I was talking about how it's important to work with the people, and I wanna just to finish with, Gabriela also mentioned, we don't have enough data to promote or start talking about, like at the level government, what is happening in the Amazon region. TNC has done some research, and we know that the mercury that is on the fish, they brought these methods just to see how many mercury is in the hair. That's good, but it was only done in one part of the river. We need to see other sacred waters that we have, what is going on over there. There is a small research also made by Anders, I forgot his name. He's actually from here, from this country, and he got married with a Quechua woman. He has a thesis about fish also, and but the data is only for a small community. We need more to see what is going on. We don't have the Ecuadorian government or in the Pastaza region. We don't measure how many fish is being caught, how many fish is being going to sell to the market, and how many is staying at home. But usually the indigenous community fish only for their own, to eat, just for them, for the families. That's the normal rule. But we know that there are some differences if you are close to the city. That comes from my pueblo, for example. We're very close to the city. My pueblo lives on selling fish to the city, for example. But the communities that are very far, they do not. They just use it, and we dry the fish, so we can have fish and eat fish all day. The 3 meals can be fish. Yeah, so I just wanted to share with you that the importance of research to strengthen what we want to do, and just to tell you that we are just in this phase. We are not too advanced as Beatriz or other places. We're just having this conversation right now, and started to work with TNC about, we're just waiting for the management plan that we did for a special place, that is the Nushino, Curaray, and Villano rivers. Thank you. Yeah, because this is shared with other nations, the Waurani nation. And we're waiting for that. Maybe from there, we can start also go again and visit the communities and continue having this conversation to promote, if it's a self-regulation, maybe we can just move forward to something that can be implemented with all the communities, not only that part of those rivers, but the whole territory that is more than 1 million hectares. That's all, thank you.
Now you know how awesome Diana and Gabby are from Ecuador. And before we end the Amazon session, we're going to go to one more video that is from Aguas Amazonicas, and to see how this coordination across multiple countries, kind of like we saw from Beatrice and Lake Tanganyika, and then we'll go to a panel and Q&A. So the last video. Thank you.
My name is Sunny Bloom. I'm the Amazon Fisheries Specialist of WCS, and today I will talk to you about the Amazon Waters Alliance. Firstly, I'd like to let you know what territory we are talking about. I know that the Amazon rainforest is a world-famous territory, but today I'm going to talk about it from a different perspective, an aquatic perspective, a water perspective. This famous forest is actually located within the largest river basin in the world. This huge basin comprises 8 countries: Suriname, Guyana, Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, and Brazil. Some binational and trinational borders, and also an ichthyofauna capable of migrating more than 11,000 kilometers round trip, passing through several of these countries. It is also a populated area. If we cannot say very populated, at least we can say that it has been inhabited for many years by many human groups, groups that are still in this territory today, integrating and changing to it. It is also a region under pressure, with many legal and illegal human activities, and even subjected to different legislation and development plans from these 8 countries that share the basin. And we are very clear that these challenges will only be overcome through cooperation, on the same scale as they are. And so that is the purpose of the Amazon Waters Alliance, to keep the immense Amazon basin intact and connected. And we are now currently 28 organizations from 6 countries working together towards alliance strategic objectives. We work together, we define our conservation targets, our tariff change, and what strategies we are going to adopt. These definitions are made in meetings with the partners, and we have a clear governance agreements for the alliance. We currently have an approved action plan with activities planned until 2026. Migratory fish are one of the alliance conservation targets. They were chosen because of their importance to the livelihoods and food security of Amazon populations. More than 8% of the region's commercial catch comes from this migratory fish, and they are a perfect umbrella to discuss connectivity. The Dorada, for example, migrates more than 11,000 kilometers from its spawning grounds, that is in the Andes, to its growth areas in the Amazon estuary, and then they come back to the Andean Piedmont to spawn. Other small Carassidia make lateral migrations and are very important for discussing the connection between river channels and floodplains, which are essential for the productivity and maintenance of the Amazon's incredible biodiversity. In order to think about resource management of this magnitude on a base management scale, the Alliance's first innovative action was carry out a geospatial reorganization of the Amazon's drainage basins. This work, led by 26 and collaborators, classified the drainage basin into 12 levels, from the well-known large rivers such as Amazonas, Madeiro, Negro, to much smaller subbasins, representing small tributaries and even streams. A major innovation was to recognize the main channel of the Amazon as a subbasin, which is essential to discussing connectivity. Our idea was to use this new organization to better understand how to manage priority areas at basin level. It's saying we no longer think in terms of country territories, but in terms of which countries share these basins, and should so be called up together to discuss their management. Following this vision at scale, the Alliance has developed a project based on citizen science to answer how and where fish migrate in the Amazon. ICTU, it's the name, was launched in 2018, and today we have more than 108,000 observations in the database, with good representation through the Amazon. In addition to an app, especially developed for these collections, we are now devising new collection tools according to the interests of our partners. We completed an analysis of the potential of this data to inform fisheries management, and the results were consistent with the literature. We also find an expansion on the distribution of several species when compared to the other scientific database available, that is Amazon Fish. We are now expanding the database with other variables used for assessing fish stocks that can provide information for the effective management of these resources. A very important value of the alliance is that we consider and respect all forms of knowledge. Thus, in addition to the technical scientific work and citizen science approach, we promote the participation of indigenous people and traditional populations through what we call the dialogues of knowledge. These meetings between fisheries leaders aim to inspire ways of co-participating in the management of the Amazon basin, based on learned and good practices at local level. So far, in 4 events, we have identified and involved 23 fisheries organizations from Bolivia, Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru. The dialogues are designed in such a way as to learn about management experience, to discuss common issues among fishers, and then present these issues and possible solutions to authorities. This brand of knowledge has allowed us to act effectively to address issues that are often not discussed regionally, such as the management of migratory and transboundary fish stocks. This year, with strong support from the Alliance, the migratory catfish dourado and piramutaba were included in the Convention on Migratory Species, which allows now governments to pay more attention to this shared resource. The Alliance is pursuing actions to enable transboundary management based on polycentric governance, and we are working on our advocacy priorities for the management of shared fishing resource, identify decision-making spaces and key stakeholders. Well, that's it. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Sani. She's online and decided to pre-record because it's 4 a.m. her time, so we appreciate her being online for questions and answers. If I could have the speakers that are in person come up for a panel. So we've heard a lot about fisheries co-management today and the complexity of managing across boundaries in different countries, across ministries, but also making sure that we're respecting the rights of Indigenous peoples in that process. I have a couple of questions for the panel, but then I'll pass it over to the audience online and in person. So start thinking of your questions now. So I'm gonna start with Diana. So Diana, you've shared not only today, but this week about your engagement with TNC, with fisheries. To just today, you mentioned the small project that TNC did on mercury contamination and how you need it to be larger, that study. So can you share more about how we could improve our engagement and or other work that you'd like to see us doing? Yeah.
Thinking.
Yeah, of course.
What I was thinking is the engagement. Usually, we have been talking. We have these traditional meetings that it occurs early in the morning, and while we drink guayusa. So, in another session, also I said that communities are very tired of having workshops. So one of the ideas should be be part of those traditional meetings, share with us that time, because early in the morning at 3 in the morning, we have, because it's still ongoing conversation, and we plan about the day or what we're going to do about an issue. So I have been thinking about that, use those traditional spaces to have these conversations, and I really like what the last speaker said. Yeah, this exchange of knowledge, diálogo de saberes. It sounds better that workshop of one thing. The other thing, yesterday I also shared that let's be more flexible and use the spaces that the people is already there. For example, women usually go to the river to wash some clothes, and that space is very crucial. I having on those spaces, and they share a lot. Like, it's a space to catch up with things, news. People share what if someone was from the came from the city, they start telling things. It's a nice place just to get to know what's going on the community, and of course, it's in the river. So I guess we need to be more flexible and try to use more different methods to be participatory, and people not to have the feeling that the information is taken from them and nothing is going to happen. What else I would like to see, like as I mentioned before, we need more research to understand the situation, the interaction that is happening with the fish population and the communities. I was thinking also when this is about the transboundary, we don't know what's going on the Peru side, because my land goes to that place, and I know that the fish is migratory. Whatever are happening over there is going to affect the migration of the fish. So we need to start having those conversations, and probably the NGOs can help with those, to connect those and have those conversations. That's I would like to say. And also because we are just of course in Ecuador, in the Amazon region, we're just having these conversations about that. To facilitate those conversations will be very helpful. And finally, we know that fish is help us with the protein, right? So let's start talking also about mercury. What is going on? We have the conversation about the trash coming from the city. It's contaminated, but in the local communities also, someone already mentioned this, the diapers. So this is a work for and a responsibility for all of us. The communities need to start having these conversations about what they are doing to the river, and also what is happening in the city. So that's why we need to connect and have all the stakeholders be part of the conversation. And I think that's one of the, at least to start, to better understand and try not to hurt the river more than it already is. Rivers.
Thank you, Diana. I particularly appreciate your point about come to us and what we're already doing. Use the spaces where we already share. And actually, your last point about connecting us and actually leads to my question for Gabby and Beatrice and Sani, if she's online, which is, we talk about community engagement a lot today, this week, but I kind of want to get down to the nuts and bolts, the nitty gritty, the very details. Like, what does it actually look like in your day-to-day at Lake Tanganyika Authority and TNC to do community engagement from your side?
Actually, the day-to-day engagement is very important at a community level in the resource management. Any fisheries, water is very important. But what we need to facilitate them on what they are discussing, what is next after what they have discussed, that they can be put in action. And after we facilitate them, then I think they can do it locally with a minimum supervision from the local level government, not at a high level. For us is to help them having the framework, getting them involved and engaged in their perspective areas, or in their respective areas. But then the facilitation, after their discussion, what they have concluded, what next, is not only to discuss and they live there. We need to take them and do action. Then it's where they will see that what they are discussing, what they are doing is very important to the contribution of the sharing of the resources. Yeah. Thank you.
So for the case of Ecuador, I think ensuring access to natural food sources for local communities is essential. Therefore, reaching a sustainable fisheries agreement at both a national and regional level is important. In Ecuador, at the local level, TNC is supporting the establishment of sustainable fishing agreements by the communities. And in order to scale up the process throughout policies, TNC is promoting the use of fishing regulation tools in key areas and defining an effective fisheries governance model based on inclusion and participation of many stakeholders. I think participation is the basis of these initiatives. I think communities and TNC are learning together in this big process. So TNC and the Nature Conservancy is an organization deeply rooted in science, but not only focused on Western science. We value indigenous knowledge and traditional practices, so TNC and communities are building together frameworks and innovative methodologies, approaches. The main objective is position communities as the main stakeholder for the conservation efforts of the freshwater ecosystems.
Thank you. Before I comment, I just want to know if Sunny online from Peru wants to comment from online.
Hi.
Hi.
I don't know if you can see me.
We can.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I mean, I'm Brazilian, but I'm in Peru right now. Exactly, talk about fisheries and between Peru, facilitate conversation between authorities on Peru and Colombia about fisheries. And well, I guess community engagement is essential. We cannot do anything without them, but it's also a big challenge. Well, the Amazon Alliance kind of born with this perspective. We wanted to conjugate, like align the knowledge, the Western science knowledge, and the local people knowledge, because of course they are very, very important, and we cannot do anything without them. But it's very difficult because sometimes they speak different languages. Languages is also a real Portuguese. We have Portuguese, English here in Amazon as well, but in Guyana, that's a small country, and in Spanish, no? So talk the same language is also a big challenge. So, for example, with the dialogues of knowledge we are doing, we sometimes have all the fishes together, but normally we split with Spanish and Portuguese languages because it's easy to them to talk. But it is very, very interesting that when they are together, the fishers, they always perceive themselves as one community, one base. They explore the same resource. They have the same problems: mercury and trash. Everything. This is one of two of the problems we have now. We are having a big drought. It's climate change, no, and we are seeing climate change right now in the Amazon. And so the fishers perceive it as a one basin. There is the importance is not the countries. The importance is it's the basin. It is also a cultural thing, because the indigenous people are organized this way. They are organized by ethnicity, by like people, pueblos, no, not exactly by countries, and so this is very important. And it's also interesting that this kind of organization that we call participative organization is emerging in these countries. That is important. In Brazil, we have a long history with this participative management of fisheries, with an incredible example that is the Pirarucu, that's Arapaima Gigas Peixe management. That is only possible with people. So it's not easy, but it's the way. We believe in that.
Yeah, I think Beatrice wins the comment. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I think one issue also that I would like to mention on this engagement of Dale is to support the gap which the fishermen have in managing the resources. For example, TNC and LTA, we have been supporting them with the boats to make the patrol or surveillance within their jurisdiction areas, and also we helped them together with the scientists map the fishing zones, and also develop the management plan on how to manage those fishing zones. So this is also very important. They're raised by them, then if you support them, then they get involved and well engaged in managing them. Yeah.
Thank you, Beatrice. I'm hearing a lot of overlapping complexities, right? We should go to the communities and engage within the processes that they have themselves, and bring the communities together across multiple spaces so that they can do shared learning across. The complexities of wanting more monitoring for mercury, for example, and Western science, but also respecting Indigenous and local knowledge, and how can we blend those? Recognizing that there's multiple languages, countries, Indigenous nations that have had territories well before there were countries as we know them today, and working across them. I have other questions. Actually, I'm going to do one more before I go to the audience, which is, Diana, I want to apologize that you're the only community member here and having to represent all communities. And I'm wondering if you have any reactions to what Sunny, Gabby, or Beatrice just shared about how they're doing community engagement.
More. I was going to say, I guess if we start creating those spaces, actually, I just came from a place, from Leticia, Colombia, that they have the 3 boundaries. And it was nice to hear from what is going on about, they were talking about control and monitoring projects. And I learned, for example, share those expertise or the best practices that what they are doing over there about the fishing was very nice. So I learned, for example, the Peru brothers, they have a good, relationship. Looks like they have a good, relationship with the environmental ministry, and they control the land and the fishing. In my case, we see the land as a whole thing. But we just start talking about we need to do something about the river. But I saw that in Peru, for example, what they are doing, it's catching the indigenous people are the ones that catch the fish and sell to the other fishers. That this is happening close to Iquitos. Of course, Iquitos is in the Amazon and is huge, one of the biggest cities in the Amazon region. But they decide to do this, and the government, of course, respect that. So they are the only ones that are allowed to catch, and if they find another fisherman that is outside of the communities, they can hold the guy and take all the things that they have, the tools to catch, and report it to the environmental government, which is nice, and they have these tools to report. So to share what is going on, what they are doing over there to protect the lands and the river, it's a good thing for the other indigenous to learn from them and use these best practices to maybe be implemented there. I would like to share that. We also learn from the Brazilian side how they also are having this, they are monitoring the climate, looking at the sky also. So this is something also new, but then we are putting together everything, what is happening on the land, what is happening on the river, and of course in the sky. So we know that climate change is happening. We have seen it happening right now with the droughts and the floods that is going on, and the seasons are getting longer. Right now it's hard to navigate by boat. So I guess connect those and make the data stronger should be another thing that I think it could be helpful, right?
Thank you, Diana. Again, talking about those complexities, the need to think about the whole system, and many Indigenous communities and peoples do think about the whole system rather than dividing it in different ways, the way Western science tends to do. And I think another thing to understand is when you get all these complexities together, it takes time. We like to rush and urgency and see results and solutions really fast, but engaging people in different sectors across multiple languages takes time and patience. Does anyone from online or here in the room have any questions? I'm going to start with, is that a question from online? Wait till you have the microphone, sorry. I think that the support staff in this room has the hardest job to go up and down these stairs. Thank you.
Thank you. So first, somebody wrote that it was a great session. And then the question is, can presenters speak to the issue and importance of tenure and rights of Indigenous peoples and local communities, fishers in a multi-stakeholder, connected, and transboundary environment? So, a big one. Do you want me to repeat the question? Yeah. Okay. Can the presenter speak on the issue of tenure and rights of Indigenous peoples and local communities, fishers in a multi-stakeholder, connected, and transboundary environment?
Yeah, the issue of tenure in the 4 countries, in the case of Lake Tanganyika, we have the 4 countries recognize the tenure of the water for the Indigenous people. And actually, initially it was a top-down implementation, but afterward it fails, and then the countries went to review and they involve the communities. So it is still there, but it need more awareness creation so that the local community get to know. And of course, they are also developing the bylaws within their communities. Though the process of developing that bylaws and being accepted, it takes time to be approved. But at least it is recognized by the member states within the national frameworks. So what we need now to help those bylaws, which also connect with the tenure rights within their local communities, to be approved or to be to be legalized by the national authorities. Yes, that's what I can say.
So in the case of Ecuador, more than 60% of the Ecuadorian Amazon region belongs to indigenous peoples. So I think it's necessary to support indigenous conservation efforts. And for this moment, I think we are supporting or creating some multi-stakeholder platforms with the national government, with the local governments. We want to indigenous nations participate in these dialogues, and they can elevate their voices during this process. So as TNC, we are facilitating this kind of spaces, and we would like to include in these dialogues the indigenous people's voices.
Yeah, I guess that in Ecuador, as Gaby mentioned, locally we have the title of our land. It's sometimes we need to mobilize to remind that to the government, but usually what is happening, at least in my province, because we are 7 of the 11 nations that are in the Amazon region, 7 are in my province, in Pastaza province. So we're very well organized. And what is going on, just trying to answer your question, we are trying just to remind every local authority and be part of those meetings. And it's like we're trying to educate the local government and the government that we are the holders of, like legally, the holders of that land, but also there is that data that our land has been very well preserved. More than 90% of the land in the Pastaza, it's from us. So that also gives us some power, and through that political power, we have been trying to at least connect and try to work with the local governments and, of course, the NGO. I talked about this before. Also, Ecuador has the right to the nature. So we are the ones that usually we speak for the nature. I don't know, like it's hard sometimes, people who is going to speak for the nature. But we are doing that. That's why I shared before that right now we are having a lawsuit against the mayor of Pastaza, the city, because the Puyo River is being contaminated. So we're pretty sure that we are going to win that lawsuit. So then we are forcing the local government to start doing something about that. They need to stop polluting the river, because all the waste from the city goes to that river, and that river goes to the Pastaza and is affecting other communities. We are also talking about what's going on upstream also, because there are more cities that are doing that. So these are one of the things that we are at least have that that differs from other countries or different indigenous in the Amazon region, but we have been very powerful to reclaim the rights that we have, the collective indigenous rights, the rights of the nature, and of course the political power that if we're very smart and strategic, we can do nice things and work for the whole. Remember, we have the Causa Sacha, the living forest, and I brought a boat. That is also trying to be like recognized to the national level. To the local level is already recognized. At least we having done a good job with that, but we're trying to move to the national and international level, just a different way to see an alternative to show how we should plan and manage the land and the rivers, using the indigenous knowledge or cosmovision, how we want to do the things for the future of all of us. Yeah.
Thank you, Diana. Before I mention, Sani, I saw you come on video. Did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah. So just some points. Sorry, it's because my internet's not good. So when I turn on the videos, everything stops. I would like just to complement what the other speakers are talking, that we are not talking only about indigenous people, no, in the Amazon, local people that they are not, they don't recognize themselves as indigenous, but they are also a great part of the Amazon culture. They live here and share the use of resources with the indigenous people. And like Jana said, locally they are very recognized, even the local and also the indigenous people, but they need support to be recognized as a national and transborder and level as well, no? So it's very important, and it's what we are trying to do with ICTU that I show in the database. That is in the presentation, sorry. That is our science database, that where we have information of the collections of the Western science, but also information of the fishers. And this information is good information. It can be used as data, so the local knowledge can be used as data. The monitoring that people are doing at the local level can be used for the governments to have good, to act effectively to the management of the fisheries, but of course, of all the Amazon. So it's very important. It's a right of these people, and it's a good, really good data. So it's very important that we support that the government use this local level as good data as well.
Thank you, Sani. I think what I heard a lot through all of you speaking is the importance of recognizing customary practices that communities already are organized around who has rights, where, when, and a lot of those rights are often collective rights shared across the communities. But they're also facing this legal pluralism where there are national laws that are not taking their customary rights into consideration. But Diana also shared how those laws can support. So the right of nature, there's also the right to drinking water in many countries, which helps with the water quality case, and often rights to free, prior, and informed consent also can support. So you have all these, you kind of have a puzzle of laws, customary or nationally defined, that create the tenure system. We have time for one more question.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been fascinating and really, really helpful to hear. So I've been coming from some of the sessions that are more involving some of the companies and that are really looking for the need and saying that collective action, really from a company or business standpoint, still has a very long ways to go and hasn't really developed that much. And so I'm just wondering but it seems like everything we talked to, it seems like a lot of cases, the worlds are very separate. But I'm just wondering if you have had any involvement from other outside companies that have, big commitments that could be involving your territories or if you wonder why not, why isn't this community more involved? And if so, what would you like to see them do to be able to help you if it comes to things like any of the things you mentioned? Could they help with data? Could they help with brokering between governments and civil society? Or do you see it as not relevant to you? What's your kind of view on that, I guess?
If the question is for all of us?
Yeah, anybody.
Okay. Yeah, Beatriz, do you have any?
I get, while they're thinking, I can respond from a freshwater fisheries global team, TNC's perspective. We've had a very hard time thinking about how to do corporate engagement, and we have a wicked smart corporate engagement team that works for us, but we're struggling to find the angle. And part of it is where we're working, these very rural places in Africa and in the Amazon. There isn't a lot of corporate, where facilities are manufacturing products and what have you, and so we haven't found the angle yet. Is my first thought. I don't know if...
Yeah. We don't have any kind of company, small or big, to working in our land about fish. No, and I'm thinking that's a good thing. I'm sorry. Yeah, because not to have, yes, because most of what we do is we catch the fish for our families, for sustenance. No more. At least now in that part of the region. I know downstream Peru, it's a lot. In Brazil, yeah, of course, it's a lot. But upstream, no. We are dealing with mining. That's a huge thing now. And of course, that mining companies come from or are a sponsor or from other countries. There are no Ecuadorian companies. Yeah, so we are having those issues. What we do last week, we again remind the Ecuadorian government that we already declared our land free of oil extraction. We are against mining. And that's how I have to tell everyone, that's my mission also when I talk with, because of this, the land is in a good state. So we want to have it that way. And I talk about the self-regulation because, of course, we are responsible of what is going on the river too in our communities. And I guess I see maybe trying to make a connection. Technology can be very helpful. We don't have electricity, for example, in the communities. So we use, some communities can afford solar panels, for example. So I'm seeing technologies, if you want to help as a company, technology will be nice, internet, and try to see, I see on the north, they have these electric dams that there are machines that you put it on the river, and because of the stream, they move and provide electricity. I see those more helpful than to build dams, for example. Yeah, and we just had a fight about that in the Piatua River. That was, I guess, 3 or 4 years ago, because again, we disagree with what was going on over there, and we won. We won that, and the dam was stopped, and they didn't build anything over there because. And also maybe that's one of the things. If you want to invest, at least don't make the due diligence to see if that investment it's good over there, if the people agree with that infrastructure or the investment that you are going to do, because that's going to hurt also the name of the company, right? So we need to be smart about that too.
Yeah, thank you, Diana, for reminding me of that. That's the one thing that we're trying to do with the Nature Conservancy too, is to bring Diana's voice and other voices where decisions are being made about hydropower, mining, and oil, which are in many of the places where we work. We are at time. So I want to thank you all for attending online and in person, and encourage you, as these wonderful women get off stage, to ask them additional questions in person. I hope that you now understand how important fisheries are to communities, and then also how it is connected to integrated water resource management. And it's one piece of the puzzle. So thank you all so much.
It's so